All right, we're gonna try this again. I swear, I think they are trying to corrupt me after I said all that stuff about the SAVE Act and about pharmaceuticals. So hopefully I will not buffer and hopefully I will not get kicked off. What's so funny is the internet I'm using is literally the same internet that I use for everything, for streaming on TV and everything. I honestly believe they're doing everything they can to hurt me. So again, we're back on. Sorry about that, guys. It was not anything that I did. Um, it's just one of those things where I can't help what, YouTube does, so I'm sorry about that. So let's go back to what we were talking about, and you can catch back up on the other one. We talked about the pharmaceuticals and coming back home and rehoming some of that, which is good. But the second part was simply the SAVE Act. So this is really the first thing that the Congress has actually taken up and allowed us to say, okay, we what we voted for, you're actually doing what Trump said, which is basically making sure that the Save Act pass, make sure that people have some kind of identification to vote. That makes perfect sense. Think about it, and this is where we were buffering when we got kicked off. Think about it like this: you can't rent a car, you can't even buy a car, you can't rent a hotel room or a VRBO, you can't go to a bar. You can't get alcohol, of course. You can't get tobacco. Any of those things and all those things are way less important, basically, than voting if you're talking about the sovereignty and freedom of a nation. And so what they're saying is people are not smart enough to even get those things. I think about when my son, remember, Aiden is fisting to graduate, and we homeschool, but he's starting an online class to go to college. Even there, he had to have a licensure or a form of identification at 17 years old. So it's amazing that the Democrats are saying this is a bad policy because people can't get a licensure or they can't get a proof of citizenship or they can't get some kind of, a birth certificate proof to show who they are. So I think this is just, again, it's very, very good to see that at least Congress, as much as they've not done for us, I will say this: the Republicans have still spent way too much money. They've not codified anything that Trump has talked about. However, at least they passed the SAVE Act, which I think is a good thing. So give me your thoughts. I mean, are you thinking that? Um, why do you think so many people push against this? Well, we think that they're pushing against it because fraud. But to be honest with you, when you think about it, we're not stopping the fraud from Doge. So I think it's good that Republicans are doing this, but I think that this is just the beginning stages. You get what I'm saying? Like, I don't want this to be like, okay, this is the prefaces, this is what we voted for. I think this is a stage set to where we need to go up the ladder of things that we're supposed to do. The promises made, promises kept talking point that they've made. Well, Trump's kept his end of the deal. Now we actually need to see Congress do something too and codify some of these executive orders. Because if they do not codify into law some of these executive orders or codify some of the spending that needs to be stopped, do you realize the next president coming in will just relinquish them and they'll go back to status quo? So we actually do need Congress to actually work more than just give us a SAVE Act. That's a great start, but let's keep on going. It's sad that they're like, hey, let's pass the bill and then let's take a recess or let's take a holiday. We need to kind of get going. For instance, on some other things, the budget is another big battle. I don't want the Save Act to be, balanced over our head. And to be honest with you, the budget, they're trying to spend way too much money and trying to raise the debt ceiling again. So it makes no sense. Like the debt ceiling, they're wanting to raise another chunk of money. So I don't want them to say, well, look what we did with the Save Acts, but we need to go up on the debt ceiling. We don't need that. So I really hope that this is a starting point to something and it grows to be more than just the SAVE Act. I don't want us to look back and say, well, we had those 2 years with Trump before the midterms and we at least did the SAVE Act. I hope that that's just like, okay, we did the SAVE Act, and then all of a sudden, when it started, we started going crazy, and we started doing the things that we were supposed to do. So that's what I really hope happens. Now let's jump into the other stories right quick. Another one that I wanted to mention, I thought was really good, that we just need to pay attention to. There's a story that came out that says Meta, and we get on social media. I'm not saying social media is bad. We're on social media right now, but there was a story that said Meta accused of compromising U.S. security with China. The bigger story to this is not just Meta. I honestly believe it says recent allegations have surfaced that former Meta employee stated that a lot of our national security that we were passing to Meta and that Meta was collecting basically went to parts of the world. That is a big deal for sure because of social media. The saddest thing though is this is just one company. Think of how many companies that are doing business here, doing business across the seas, doing business with people who may not like us, doing business elsewhere. I think of Qatar, who has kind of infiltrated our colleges, and they don't like us. So why in the world are we allowing them to get data and information of our people? Same way with what Meta's doing with the data. If you're downloading apps and you have a phone and you're utilizing it, that's great, but remember, when you get those things for free or you're not having to pay for those services, pretty much that means you're the one compromised and you're the data that's getting sold to some of those other people. So I think this is a big deal too. I didn't want to touch it on a video, but I do think we need to pay attention to some of these companies that's getting our information. And if they're getting our information, are they using it for bad signs? So we need to pay attention to that story. Another story that I brought up in the video today that's coming out. Did you see, while we were worried about all this tariff stuff, while we were worried about everything going on, Colorado governor signs a controversial gun control bill, meaning while we were worried about the debt ceiling or the tariffs, we actually saw one state literally push against the Second Amendment rights. On April 10th, Colorado Governor Polis signed Senate Bill 25003 into law, which bans the manufacturing and severe restricts the sale of certain firearms. Now, here's the thing. They say certain. When they talk about semi-auto, that's a handgun, that's a pistol. Now think about that for a second. While we are having a freedom liberty president that pushes open um, reciprocity, which pushes for 2A rights, which pushes all the things that we're hoping for when it comes to freedoms that our founders put in. 2A is a big one, and you just had a governor sign saying that he's restricting it for his state. Now, I don't know if anybody from here is from Colorado, but the problem I think that we're seeing is if we all of a sudden put our faith and hope into just the president, which I think is good, and I think Trump's doing good things, we see Congress kind of letting us down. What about our states? What about how serious it is with our states? So are you seeing it in your state? I know California had a law like this, New York had a law like this, I think Oregon had a law like this, and now Colorado. So tell me, are you seeing this in any of your states? Now, Mississippi is pretty open, so it's not a real big deal here. Actually, open carry is common in Mississippi. But tell me, for all the ones that are here, there's two or three hundred of you here. Tell me, what are you seeing in your state? Are you seeing any uh, firearm laws that are going through? This will be legal challenges from here on out, even down to some people using for hunting and sports. Now, they're saying it won't affect that, but they're saying if you read into the law, the way it's wrote up, it's going to make it harder for people because it infringes on the rights to carry. And when it does, it will hurt the sports shooting and it will hurt hunting. Now, Colorado is a hunting state. I mean, when we went up to Colorado, there's elk everywhere, and it's just beautiful. It's just a beautiful area. To see things like this, it's just unbelievable. So pay attention. That's something that no one's talking about is the Colorado law that just came out because our focus has been nationally. We got to remember these states are fighting major battles. Pay attention to it. I like reciprocity too, Sherry. I think that more states should have reciprocity. The sad thing is, no matter how much our national government may push that, even with Trump pushing for open reciprocity across state lines, it depends on the state you're going to. Now, in the South, my problem is not Louisiana or Alabama or Arkansas or Florida or Georgia, but there are states that's going to not reciprocate and then have more strenuous laws, just like we talked about with Colorado. Now, I want to talk about one more thing, and then we're going to jump into a few comments and try to answer some of your questions. If you saw Trump met with his cabinet, and if you remember, they kind of showed parts of that. Tulsi Gabbard had a big part in that. RFK had a big part in that. And Trump spoke for a good bit of that. But listen to this. There is part of that meeting that came out. The Department of Labor released this. I want you to listen to this. Department of Labor said we have already allocated. Now listen to this is how crazy this is. The Department of Labor of the United States has already allocated 10,000 people who have not been born yet to receive $69 million from the US government. What that means is there's already money allocated and budgeted out for people who are not even alive yet. So this kind of goes back to the Social Security thing a few weeks ago where there was people that were like 150, 180, 220 years old, 130 years old that were quote unquote still getting Social Security. Now we go to the other side of that argument, and the Department of Labor said there is already people that were 1 to 5 years old that were getting hundreds of millions of dollars, like $250 million that were going to 1 to 5-year-olds that's applied for Department of Labor money, help. Now think about that now. That's crazy. But they're saying, listen, she came out, the Department of Labor secretary came out and said, there are 10,000 people that equates to $69 million of US taxpayer funded money that is going to those 10,000 people that has not even been born yet. That's not even been born yet. Think of think of how crazy that is. So how in the world have we allocated money that's not even the people who's not even been born yet? You know how? Because just like this, remember what Doge said a few weeks ago? It said that $4.7 trillion was not even on the books to show where it went. Remember, there's no check and balance. There's no reconciliation with our government. So what happens is when they write checks and they don't reconcile, think about you personally. Don't you reconcile your bank? Don't you, either look online and see what you've spent money on your ATM and your checks that you've wrote out to see if they've reconciled or not? Elon Musk said what the federal government does is they just write checks and know that no matter if it's not enough money in the budget, if there's fraud to it, they're going to keep on making sure those checks are just covered by printing more money. So therefore, then he said, we actually can't even put really a number amount on how much fraud that we would actually find because there's no reconciliation of the money sent out. So the $4.7 trillion that they said that we already know was sent out and didn't have an allocation to it. Now we're just coming up with these little numbers. Think of the 69 million, the 255 million to the 1 to 5-year-old. Think about the people that are they said over $20 million went to someone that was that people were like over 150 years old. So if there's no reconciliations, there's no accountability, the inspector generals work for the department of whom they're supposed to be auditing. Do you honestly believe that our money has not been taken from us and then instead of giving us reprieve, instead of telling Americans, no, we're going to cut your taxes, we're going to let you not pay property tax or state income tax or federal income tax, they want to charge us more. So this is where it's big deal with the Congress. And that's kind of why I want to kind of finish up this video. All these things go back to the fact that no matter what Trump tries to do or says, he has to have Congress. And this is where it's so important that the right people have to be placed in Congress because if these things are not codified, no matter what Doge does, and it embarrasses maybe a lot of people, the bottom line is if no one does anything about it and the purse is not taken back from the Congress side to say, okay, we're not going to allocate that money anymore, then basically what happens is it means nothing. It's all for naught, and you're going to keep seeing this waste. Now, the sad thing is, your congressman and my congressman in the Senate voted to give this money to these allocations in these NGOs in the Department of Labor to pay people who are not born yet. So that's what we don't realize. We want to give them a pass, but actually, Congress is the one who spent the money in the first place. So even though we see good things coming from the Trump administration, if we don't have Congress and they don't start codifying some of this stuff and they don't start approving and making sure that they can help cover our fraud and cover our budgets and actually start cutting back on some of this, sadly, it's all for naught, and we're not gonna get anywhere. We're just gonna know a lot more, and it's gonna make us even more mad. So that's kind of the stories I wanted to touch base with. Remember, we are doing a video still at 5:30 to 6, so please make sure you watch it. It's one of the ones that I think is one of the most important videos I've done because it talks about the Christian faith and the warnings that are coming up. So, real quick, before we get off here, I see that some people are coming from Washington, D.C., some people are coming from Alabama, Louisiana, Mississippi, Washington, Colorado. There was someone from Colorado. So let me know. Give me a question. Somebody shoot me some questions right quick, and I want to try to answer as many as I can real quick. So shoot me some questions on the chat, and I want to try to answer some of these because that was the whole purpose of us getting on. I want to be interactive with you more. Virginia, Florida, North Carolina. Maryland said, until people are held accountable and prosecuted, it won't change. You're exactly right. Hardly no one has been held accountable. There's been a few firings. That's it. Will Chinese products go up as of tomorrow? I think you're going to start seeing it go up automatically because the speculation of it is huge. I think you need to pay attention to medicines and electronics. They're going to be two of your biggest ones, I think, in the next few days. Do you think the SAFE Act passing means that they'll start doing better? Glenda, I think they will do better, but I think it also comes down to are the states going to help implement the law? That's the key. So the same states that's caused the problems with not having, voter ID, like we have voter ID in Mississippi. So it's never a big issue. This is not a big issue. It's a non-event for us. But for states that don't want to obey the law and they're going to do what they want to do anyway, I don't know if it's going to actually help. That's why I said this is just a small little step. We need to keep on going. Texas Care. How can our government do what they're doing and not be thrown in prison? Because your law making House. I mean, your lawmaking House and Senate is not codifying and not actually watching what they're spending. A lot of this stuff is the fraud and all that's really because the Congress gave them money to just spend it. It's really a Congress fault. I'm just being honest. Gas is going up, oil is down, eggs still outrageous here. When do you think prices will come down? It depends on where you're coming from. So, for instance, a lot of conservative states, you've seen gas go down and eggs go down. But they did say that some liberal states, listen to this, some liberal states were still keeping some of those high prices as usury, meaning they're kind of falsity to try to make Trump look worse. So, pay attention to that. And you need to reach out to your state capitals and your representatives of your state, your state representation. Do you know about Nasera and Gasera? I do, Tina. I don't know if that's gonna come in. The sad thing is I think you're gonna see a reset with the dollar and you're gonna see everything go digitized, which is scary to me. That's why this video I talk about today is a big deal. Uh, Mincy says, Colby, we still have electronic counters, so still have fraud issues. I agree. I think we should go back to a paper ballot. Sadly, I think it's going to come down to states, Secretary of State. I think Mississippi has a pretty good Secretary of State. I don't like our lieutenant governor too much, but I do think that it's going to come down to more of what the state level representation is. And if you've got good state level people, then I think the elections will be good. If not, I think it's not going to help. Let's see. Yep, Connecticut prices have gone up with gas and eggs. You're right. So a lot more liberal states, you're going to see that. CBDC does scare me too. I think the scary thing is, and again, nothing against David Sachs. I think David Sachs is a brilliant guy when it comes to crypto and IT. I think that Trump and even his family kind of like the digitized currency. I think there's nothing wrong with having it as a secondary sign. If we see that everybody starts embracing CBDC because the dollar, quote unquote, is falling, I think we're fixing to see a major reset, and that's scary. Let's see, more questions, let's see, thank you, Vicky, please hit the like button, thank you so much, and again, we appreciate you for coming on. I know these little videos are gonna be extra, so hopefully people can grab the lives because we wanna be more interactive. Um, Uh, PAMT said gold has hit an all-time record. Yes, I actually, my gold investment's done well from the stock side, but also tangible gold. I think tangible gold is huge. I actually talked to Genesis Gold yesterday, some representation, because there has been more and more people invest in it, which is a good thing. I think you're going to see gold keep on going up, and I think that's the scarcity of the market. So. All right, guys, thank you so very much, very, very much for being here. I would love to see us get back to a gold standard. I think we're a long ways away from that, but I do believe that if we see the valley more, then I believe the mountaintop will be better. And what I mean by that is, if we're going to see a reset or a reawakening, I hope it's on the side of conservatism and freedom, not with liberals back in charge. Guys, thank you so much for watching. Again, we appreciate you. Please do not forget that we will still have a video at 5:30 to 6 tonight. And it's one that's very, very important. We talk about values, we talk about morals, and we talk about some things that are coming up when it comes to our Christian walk. Guys, we appreciate you. We hope you have a good day. We're going to do more of these lives, probably do 2 or 3 a week, just so we can interact with everyone and answer some questions and spend some time with you. Have a wonderful day.